Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hidden Realms channel. I, as always, am Joshua MacGregor, and I do a lot of GMing here on the channel. Um, this is Roll Insight, Race to the Battle of the Bands. And what that means is I'm going to be talking about episodes 5 of both the latest episodes of Reserve List and episode 5 of the Mockeries, which go on this channel. This episode is a few days late. When it comes out is usually a bit of a toss-up, but some stuff has happened, and so one day before episode 6 of the Mockeries, and then the next day episode 6 of the Reserve List come out, I am doing a talkback for the ones last week. So let's get right into it. Episode 5 of the Mockeries came first, and episode 5 was entitled The Goliath Mountains. The naming of those mountains was totally dumb, and it was just because I wanted Goliaths or slightly slow who live in these mountains. But yes, so last time the Mockeries group found and did a performance for some Goliaths, excuse me, Dali, did a performance for some Goliaths in the Goliath Mountains. And in this episode, those Goliaths point them in the direction of another pass between the jungles, which are inhabited by the Yuan-Ti in the neighboring country of Drydia, and Garanseal, near Merlay Stone. So, excuse me, that was something that wasn't fully explored this time around, because what they do is they go that way, and the rival of Thesia to become champion of Malar, who is a Yuan-Ti Malazan, is tracking them using her smarts to find his quarry. He was just a bit of a brute, really. And what they do is they make their way there, they get a favorable position, and they engage in combat with Orlando Coin the Werewolf and with the Yuan-Ti Malazan called Olus. Now, what was interesting about this combat, let me talk first. Let's do the gimmick. Let's roll for insight and see what we get. Inevitably very low. I can't remember the last time that we got a really good insight roll on the show. That's a 4. So bad insights for you today. Yes, the interesting thing about creating this combat encounter was I know from personal experience that if you throw a CR monster at a party which is equivalent to their level, they are going to wreck shop. They're just going to wreck shop. I also know that it's much better both for streaming and just for theater of the mind to have one big scary monster as opposed to a bunch of small ones. So as opposed to putting 10 skeletons in, much better to put in one big scary thing. That being said, a werewolf on its own didn't seem like it was going to be a big enough challenge, so I threw in another creature, which is also CR3, which is the Yuan-Ti Malazan. Now, for various reasons, I basically... the way that werewolves are written is that they have like damage immunity from weapons that are not silvered. I fully got rid of that. Not interested. It's much more interesting to me if it only does half damage on non-silvered weaponry, and silver weapons are therefore the right tools for the job, but you could still fucking fight a werewolf, because you'd be able to fight a werewolf. And the other thing was the other one. Now, the two of them working together would spell doom for the party, right? Because they can deal a lot of damage. But the idea was that there's a bit of three-way action going on. But the way that things worked out was that that both Olus was just fighting Thesia, and Orlando Coin was just fighting Cloud, and in those one-on-one matchups, a level 2 character against a CR3 monster doesn't end well. And what we see by the end of this episode is this moment, which was absolutely terrifying for me, which is Orlando Coin taking the spear and spearing Cloud to the side of the wall. Iconic moment. It has very much stuck in the minds of the players as like, oh, bad things can happen in this game. And I actually I get caught out in my games for this specific thing where I say, oh, combat's not going to be terribly lethal. We're interested in the roleplay stuff. And then when combat comes around, because it comes around so rarely, I make it memorable by making it very hard. And people are like, no, our lives were very much in danger, Josh. What are you talking about? Low stakes combat. It's like, no. This is high stakes combat. So I suppose what I'm saying is when I say well, first of all, I'm not interested in killing my players in combat, especially. I think, especially for Race to the Battle of the Bands, as opposed to God Heist, because God Heist is a very highly lethal game, and I was much more willing to kill people. And Race to the Battle of the Bands is a bit more lighthearted, and it's introducing new players to the game, so I'm not interested in killing people, but the stakes have to be there, right? You can say, guys, I'm not interested in killing your characters all you want, but the characters are facing life and death situations. The story is of a life and death situation. So how would I have saved these? Going into the next episode, 2 characters are down. The healer is down, and the rogue is down. Absolutely terrifying for me, because the dice play cruel games on us, and I'm not going to say no spoilers for the next one. No spoilers for the next one, but that's a terrifying situation to be in, for sure, as a DM who said, sort of, this is a game for new players. So yeah, my general sort of stance in my games is to make combat happen very rarely, but to be very impactful and dangerous when it does happen. So there. I can talk a little bit more about that philosophy and how that's come about. But the basis of it is this. Personal style, personal taste. I love those improvised scenes of D&D where the stakes are very high and there are power plays being made and somebody knows something that another person doesn't. I love the investigations into what's going on. The actual combat is something I think should be spectacular and should happen at emotional high points, which means we're not in an action movie with D&D. We're in a very high stakes mystery, drama, comedy. And when things get very high stakes, then we put combat in. So that's the personal taste and style of the way I like to DM. I don't like to pull out combat all the time. I like it to be impactful and memorable, and for the stakes to be well established going in. So let's talk about episode 5 of the Reserve List. Now, this was a shorter episode, and the reason was that we filmed these in 2-week periods. The idea is that we have a 3-hour-long session that's split up into 2 episodes. And what happened was we had some really bad technical problems dealing with WhatsApp as opposed to Zoom, which is why also the video quality looks so much jankier, I think is the word. But what we did have, which was great, was we had the picking of the mushrooms, we had going into the Waynwood and kind of discussing what the Waynwood's like. There's always such incredible banter between everybody, especially Julian and Ralph. Those characters are freaking amazing, and the other characters are great too. But the comedic side really comes out with those guys. Uh, yeah, great. And then of course heading over to the old abandoned logging facility, which like cutting down Fangorn, there were going to be problems with that, which they discovered. So yeah, cutting down the Waynwood, you don't want to do it. But yeah, and then finding that there's been this illusion that has been set up around that space, and going in and finding the men in the in the iron masks, finding Harathan and stuff. And these guys were they were so angry with the puppies and things that they were fully ready to go into combat immediately. Instead of talking to Harathan, which is completely fine. I have plans in the works. So, insofar as those episodes go, look forward to the thrilling conclusions of both of those combats next week. We've got Olus and Orlando Coin with Thesia and Cloud downed, and Theremin just hanging out on top of a cliff. And then you have the men in the iron masks, up against the reserve list, and whether or not they're going to be able to save these Blink Dog puppies. Having played a couple of sessions ahead, there's some really good stuff coming, guys. I can't reiterate enough how exciting it is for me, who creates these scenarios and then throws these characters in, to watch the characters and see what they do in these situations. It's absolutely glorious. And it never goes according to any preconception that I have. I've given up on planning a long time ago. But I'll talk a little bit more about how things go, how people subvert expectations going forward. And actually, I'll just very quickly address, players are always going to surprise you. They will surprise you less the longer they are in a particular character and a particular setting and a particular campaign. In that they will always surprise you, and what they do will always take you off guard. You will not be prepared. You DMs out there, you will not be prepared. You will be riding on the seat of your pants, but they will be predictably themselves. So I don't know. This was the first combat. I don't know if Tombar Jolly Snorkel just rushes into combat or not. I don't know if the more experience he has, that will change. Things change. So, that being said, I wanted to move on to a particular topic, which is something that I've been thinking about. And the topic of the day is creating, forgive me, is exploring creating a channel identity, and what that has been and what that continues to be. So when you're very smart and you know what you're doing, you create a very clear identity for your channel right off the bat. People who are very good at this, good examples of this, are Dimension 20, College Humor's anthology series, Not Another D&D podcast, Dungeons and Daddies. All of these guys who know going in what their specific thing is. And I think with Hidden Realms, what our thing is has changed. I think we came in with a particular kind of idea that we were going to do a long form story, and it was going to be very lethal, and it would be a bit more like Critical Role. And it would be broken down into seasons, but the seasons would be quite long, last us about a half year each. And obviously that's not the way that the channel has gone. And the channel is now split up into the Race to the Battle of the Bands stuff, and we have plans for 2 series beyond this going forward. We have plans for, I'm not going to tell you what they are. Um, the teasers are that we have plans for uh, one that is set in the outer planes of Cygalia, so not on the material plane at all, and one which is the sequel of the God Heist, which is going to be the 10th Kingdom. So the official season 2 of the channel, which is very exciting. Uh, which is just very exciting. We may or may not be going back to Volpicar. Depends on what the players do. Uh, um, but been ooh, it's been very exciting to expand the world and expand the people that we were playing with. It's also meant that it's not entirely clear what our channel identity is right away. And I was talking to somebody today, and I was explaining this idea to them because they're not necessarily familiar uh, with these stories very intimately and what we're doing. And I explained, this sort of things like people have, very clear ideas of what they're creating going in. And they said, isn't it okay? Isn't it okay to enjoy asking these questions and exploring the question of what your channel's identity is? And they said to me, if you focus in on what you are interested in telling, like the stories you're interested in telling and the stories uh and the things that you are most passionate about, you will create uh that unique thing. And it's okay to be exploring right now. And I think that is so wise, is this idea that we don't have it down yet. Um, we don't necessarily know. Some of these realms that we are exploring are still hidden from us, but we are exploring and we are putting in the time and we're telling stories and we're having fun, and we are going to get to a place inevitably where we know exactly what we're doing, and we know exactly when we tell people what it is we're doing, we can say it is this. That's actually all I really had to say about that topic. um I can say that there was a Matthew Colville running the game episode. Huge shout out to Matthew Colville because he's awesome, and he speaks very coherently uh, about his topics. And he had one that came out very recently, which is about the DM as a player and what makes the DM excited. And he said there are parts of the story which come next, and so you know that that's the next thing to do, and you are not excited about running them. And how important it is to put in things that you are excited to tell in the stories that you're running. And I think that is so wise. Um, and it made me really think about the episodes of Race to the Battle of the Bands that I've been less excited about running, because there have been some. There have been some that I've been a little bit less interested in, um, because I know that that's the thing that comes next, as opposed to here's the thing, right? There's going to be an episode of the Mockeries coming up, which is a bit like that, which is still incredibly entertaining and awesome. And the players are always and it's so much, there's so much joy to be found and to be had in playing inevitably. It's social, it's fun. Um, but there are episodes that I was a little bit less excited about. And uh, and it shifts and it grows and it changes, and the further in we get, the better. the more I know what that is. And so, you look back at God Heist, there are things about God Heist which are very indicative of the things which I love, and there are things in God Heist which are very indicative of the things I don't. Um, and same with Race to the Battle of the Bands. And I think for somebody who, like me, who has been playing very intensively for the last since lockdown, so for the last 8 months, um, but really only has 2 years worth of experience in this game. Uh, Finding that is really important, and it takes a certain amount of experience. I think anybody can DM, I think anybody can be an amazing player, but I think after a certain amount of experience, you find the things that you love and the things that make you excited to come back every time. And sometimes you're just not excited, and that's fine. And that's fine, but find something you can do to spice it up. Um, I love one-on-one conversations where bad guys or people with other agendas get to come in and talk to the heroes. I love them. I just love them. And so I might insert some of that into stuff going forward. Yeah, 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 yeah. Poof. This is not entertaining for you. This is just me taking a breath and trying to figure out if there's anything left to talk about. Um, I think the other thing I'm going to just mention is uh, this personal campaign of mine, this home game set in the world of Cygalia, came to an end last week. Or maybe it was the week before. I think it was just last week. Time is a bit weird. This game came to an end, and it was amazing, and it was brilliant, and it made me so happy and so excited about the things that are coming up. And one of the things that I will be working on is a format in which to bring that story to this channel. There will be content on this channel, which is not going to be those. We didn't film any of those, so it will be probably me getting together all my notes and getting together with the other players and getting their notes and writing out something of a script and potentially reading it to you guys. It's a thought. I'm not sure yet what that'll look like. But that, in case anybody is wondering, that campaign details the events historically in the world of Cygalia. If God Heist takes place in the year 670 and Race to the Battle of the Bands takes place 4 years after that, then Before the Fall, which is the name of that homebrew campaign, took place in the year 450, so 220 years before the God Heist, 224 years before Race to the Battle of the Bands. And for those of you who know how long-lived gnomes and elves are, there are going to be plenty of people who are part of that who are still alive, and who are still around and who have potentially more to do and greater roles. So going into season 2 and going into this other side story that we have planned, it's possible that stuff from that will be very important. So you will want to have an account of it that you can go back and watch, obviously. And some of that is some of the stuff that I'm most excited about, and it's really actually given me clarity on what specifically I want season 2 to be about. And it is very much more of a follow-on to God Heist than I thought. I thought it was going to be much more separate from that story. Uh, but no, it's going to be continuing on. And I'm so excited about it. I think we have to get to the end of Race to the Battle of the Bands first, before we can look at that, just because of what everyone's schedules are like. But we'll see. We shall see. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe for more. If you want to get a notification on most of the days of the week, go ahead and hit the bell icon. If you don't, completely understand that, but know that we put up videos on, well, I don't know what's happening with the narcissistic tendencies, but Wednesdays are the Mockeries, Thursdays are the reserve list. I do one of these anytime between those dates, and more narcissistic tendencies content will be released as well. Guys, a joy, a pleasure, and please stay safe and take care. Bye-bye.